things like sexual diseases or drug problems or family breakups. Before evolution, the Bible was generally regarded as the ultimate authority and the standard. It was often not followed, of course, but at least it required a willful rejection of an accepted authority. Now, if evolution is true, there is no God involved with people, and there is no God to help us with our daily problems, and there is no hope for life after death. But if creation, especially the biblical account of creation, is true, then God is an available source of strength for today, and some will spend an eternity in a paradise called heaven, yet some will spend an eternity in the horror called hell. Therefore, the consequences of the truth of this issue are enormous. It would be utterly foolish not to take time to investigate the evidence. As we've seen, there is so much overwhelming evidence supporting creation. It makes one ask, why is there this great debate of creation versus evolution? Well, there are really three reasons. The first is ignorance. If you don't know the facts, if you don't know this new information, how are you going to make an informed decision on which is right? And frankly, most of the world, even most of the scientific world today, is just unaware of the facts. Keep in mind, we're talking about many things that have happened over the last few years. And even scientists that are very knowledgeable in one area often are not knowledgeable in other areas that have a very important bearing on this system or this idea of origins. The second is the continual propensity of people to have old-fashioned thinking. As we saw in our discussion of history, there were several key debates that Christians lost, not because the truth was not on their side. They lost the debates because science wasn't smart enough to know the answers at that point in time. So they lost debates based on faulty assumptions. A lot of this old historical thinking still exists in the minds of many people today. The third reason people reject creation is perhaps the saddest of all, and that's apathy. Frankly, some people insist on rejecting the idea of a supernatural God at all costs. Now, we can correct ignorance with knowledge. We can correct misconception of history with facts. But it's difficult to change the thinking that really comes from someone's heart, someone who's determined to reject the possibility of a God, no matter how strong the evidence is. Now, in summary, we've looked at a lot of things in this series. We've looked at virtually all areas of science. We have found every single one, bar none, supports creation. We've examined facts that have come forth to us in just the last few years. The challenge to us now is to get these facts out into the world so that the common person knows these facts. And that's the purpose of this series. We hope that what we have presented you through these new findings and through this whole series of information, you can use to teach your own family, to become knowledgeable yourself, to tell your friends. There is overwhelming evidence for creation, the creation exactly as laid out in the Bible. Now it's up to us to help tell the rest of the world.
Continue viewing for a special video appendix for advanced study, including such topics as an analysis of the naturalist presupposition in science, an explanation of William Dembski's explanatory filter to detect intelligent design, a study of the optical purity of amino acids and natural mechanisms for DNA assembly, an explanation and analysis of chaos theory as a naturalist self-organizational scenario, and an analysis of fossil interpretation and homology.
Science historians have chronicled for us the kinds of questions which scientists have been asking of science throughout history. They also chronicle for us a vast paradigm shift in the metaphysical paradigm or worldview within which science has been functioning, which took its roots in the early Enlightenment, was fiercely fueled in the age of Darwin, and came to its culmination in the end of the 20th century. This new paradigm is called naturalism. More specifically, anti-supernaturalistic, or a type of monistic naturalism. We can define this naturalism as a belief that the universe, or nature, is the only reality. It is eternal, self-activating, self-existent, self-contained, self-dependent, self-operating, and self-explanatory. The universe is not derived from nor dependent upon any supernatural or transcendent being or entities. It may also be defined as a belief that all phenomena can be explained in terms of the inherent relationships of natural events without recourse to any supernatural or supernatural explanation. So in other words, a belief that no reality exists other than processes in space and time. There are no non-natural causes. This is important to our discussion because limiting paradigms, such as a metaphysical paradigm, limit the kinds of questions and answers which are available through an investigative process. As an example of this, years ago in Chicago there was a murder trial which was considered an open and shut case because the abandoned murder weapon with the suspect's fingerprints on it had been found. And yet, through a legal technicality, the defense attorneys were able to dismiss the murder weapon as evidence. By doing so, they limited the kinds of questions which could be asked. And by limiting the questions, they were able to guarantee the answers and guarantee the outcome and an innocent verdict to the trial. In the same way, in science, a metaphysical limitation in paradigm, or the kind of questions which could be asked, guarantee the kinds of answers which could be obtained. So we understand that when we hear claims such as all scientific evidence points to evolution, what's actually being said is that when we restrict our questions to those limited by naturalism, the answer which is forced is evolution. Now, this isn't how science has always operated. Science used to function under what is called a system of free inquiry. Free inquiry systems allow multiple hypotheses to compete to see which has the most explanatory power given all of the evidence. Now, many scientists have tried to defend the shift to a presupposition of naturalism, which limits the questions and guarantees the answers before the investigation, by arguing that only paradigms of naturalism allow the intersubjectivity desired in science. Now, intersubjectivity simply argues, or simply means, that any scientist doing the same experiment, given the same constraints, would come up with the same answers. Thereby, it's been argued that credibility happens to a scientific idea through multiple processes of experimentation. Now, these scientists argue that issues of design, which are allowable and possible in systems of free inquiry, are intuitive and purely subjective, that no two scientists would see the design in the same place. Therefore, they argue that because of its lack of intersubjectivity, which is critical in science, therefore a presupposition of naturalism is more practical and useful in any kind of empirical objective endeavor. But this lies in stark contrast to the writings of many leading evolutionists. Richard Dawkins, a Darwinian evolutionist, writes, "Biology is the study of complicated things which give the appearance of having been designed for a purpose." But this begs the question of why it's only an appearance and not actual design. And the answer lies solely in the presupposition of naturalism. And yet the claim is contradicted here because even an evolutionist sees objectively the appearance of the design, ruled out only by the presupposition of naturalism. Biologist Francis Crick writes, "Biologists must constantly keep in mind that what they see was not designed, but rather evolved."